Welcome to the Commissioner's Report. I'm Miles Vance. Water conservation and reuse is one of the most important goals that we have here in the county. Today I'm joined by Utilities Director Tamara Richardson as well as County Commissioner Michael Scott. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much for coming on. And one of the things that I want to talk about that I learned about recently is the septage and leachate treatment facility. Can you talk to us, Director Richardson, about what septage is, why we're treating it at this facility, and what your plans are for this facility when it is constructed?
Yes, thank you. Septage is when you have a septic tank on your own private property. It's an in-house, on-site treatment system. It is when you have to have that emptied. The haulers take that out, and then that has to be disposed of someplace. Historically, it's gone through a preliminary type treatment and was land applied. But due to algae blooms, the algae blooms that happened maybe 10 years ago, the state has really tightened regulations on land application of biosolids. So the haulers, the sludge haulers, there are several companies that work here in Polk County, and the County Commission directed utilities to provide a septage receiving facilities where the sludge haulers can bring the contents to be treated further, so they're not harmful to the environment. So we're working with the landfill. The landfill also has a leachate. Now they have their own leachate treatment system through the wetland process, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but they do have overflow leachate production from time to time during storm events. So we're building a facility that will take their leachate plus our septage that comes from all the haulers, from septic tanks all over the county, combine them and treat them to reclaimed water standards. So it's taking these two very unpleasant substances and turning them into something useful. So we're actually very proud of the project. It started out to solve one problem and ends up solving three. So now the landfill has some place to put their excess leachate. We are treating the septage for all the people in Polk County who have septic tanks, and being able to do it at an affordable price. Then producing reclaimed water that the landfill can use as processed water throughout their plant, so they don't have to use their on-site well to pump clean water for that. So it's it ended up being a really exciting project.
Well, it's really exciting how you can see these water conservation and reuse projects it's a cycle of benefit. Everybody benefits in the county, and you get to reuse it again and again.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the history of this project, because I know it's been a long time coming.
I guess it's been, now this is before my time, but I think it was maybe 15 years ago. The County Commission had talked about doing a septage receiving facility. At that time, the sludge haulers had their own private companies that they worked with, and they really weren't interested in participating in a county project. But since then, the regulations had tightened, and a lot of those facilities that they used to use were no longer permittable, because it has to do, there were a lot of requirements that came in that made it more, the restrictions about where you could land apply became so much tighter that a lot of these smaller ones went away. So now they're looking for an option where they can take their septage that is not harmful to the environment. So that's where we come in. And our benefit is that, again, we can offer it. We have a nice central facility, which is the landfill. It's nice centrally located. It's set up for truck traffic already. Lots of room for the trucks to come in and turn around. And we already have storage tanks and everything already set up. It was just really a win-win. The timing was perfect.
And Commissioner Scott, I know this is a project that you've been aware of for quite some time as well, almost from the beginning, really. Can you talk about, maybe the perception of government speed and the idea that maybe this project was moving slowly while in reality, in the background, everything's moving at as fast as it can, and these regulations are changing, everything's changing, and the goalposts ended up changing, as we saw with this project.
Sure. I think, having been on the septic contractor side, with my father being in the business for almost 40 years, I had that purview of the non-government side. So from the private sector, it was seen as, at the very beginning, it was really as a county wanting to move in to try to profit, if you will, off of a private industry. And while from that, only that purview of the private sector, that maybe could be a perception, really was a misconception. And how we look at it now, and having now been involved with the county directly, for us, we're operating at a point just to break even. The county isn't in any of these service businesses, whether it's this particular application or hauling garbage or providing landfill services. None of those are for a profit. We don't want to lose money because it's not sustainable long term, but we're there to provide that service and cover the cost. And when we look at it from an environmental regulatory standpoint, there is a lot of requirements that have to be met on a regular basis that from a private sector becomes burdensome. That's really with my dad and seeing what he went through, and I helped him as an engineer get through that process. It really became more taxing on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to stay in compliance with DEP and other regulatory requirements. So for this, really to me, it eases that burden on the private sector, and but it also gives us that environmental benefit, certainly of we have now control as a county of making sure that we are containing the waste. We look at it during hurricanes or other potential upset events. We're not looking at multiple septic haulers across the county trying to manage their individual facilities. We have a unified front here at the county landfill. So to me, a great opportunity, although it's not a private-public partnership, it really feels like that for the sake that we as a county are providing that service to the private sector. And to me, I think it's a game changer. It'd be, I think, allow the septic haulers and contractors to focus on their business and not worry about filling out regulatory paperwork and, oh, did I miss something? Did I not? Did I make an error, typo? Those are all gone, and now they just simply have to do what they're really good at.
And that's an excellent point. It doesn't have to be a public-private partnership, in name to benefit the private business. Obviously, we're working with C&T contractors to get this built, and that benefits local business and local workers. Another source of funding for this project was through the American Rescue Plan funds. Can you talk a little bit about, from the county commission perspective, what it's like working with the federal government on these projects and obtaining that funding and trying to make sure that we're the best advocates for our county at the national level?
Sure, yeah, I think a lot of people aren't aware of how helpful the federal government is to the county. We certainly have revenue streams that we get in from the local level in the county, and there's state appropriations as well. But when you look at the federal government, some of these larger projects like the septic receiving facility really wouldn't be possible in the timeline that it is. Could we eventually get there? Certainly. Nothing different than saving money enough to get to where we need to go. But these injections of capital from the American Rescue Recovery Plan, all those help us make projects like this possible sooner. And to me, the sooner we can get those online to service our community, then the better stewards we are of not only of our constituents, but also of our overall surrounding environment. And the federal government is very astute in recognizing great projects, and this is one of those, so we certainly are glad to have had their assistance in getting this project to come to fruition sooner.
And why was this project in particular something that the commission felt was important, and that, like you said, the federal government saw the value in it? Why was this something that you advocated for at that level?
Sure, so I think one of the things, and really the timeline proved to even be more pertinent. The only other private sector receiving a facility is actually now in the process of being sold. And so from what we know, that's going to go offline in 2026. So this project happens to be coming online in 2026. So without this project being in place and without having had the federal assistance to get this project constructed sooner than later, really our septic haulers within the county would be in a fairly difficult spot of where to take the septic, which could ultimately lead to potentially illegal dumping or other disposal methods that are harmful to the environment. So for us to be able to provide this facility in the time we did, it worked out to me almost perfect on the textbook perspective of having it now when we need it.
Director Richardson, in your own words, why is this goal of water conservation and reuse something that's important for the county to pursue?
We're not running out of water, we're running out of cheap water. Anytime we pump water from the aquifer, we need to make sure we are maximizing its use. To replace that water from the groundwater, to replace that inexpensive water, those projects are expensive. They involve further treatment, they involve piping, they involve a lot of reverse osmosis advanced processes. So we need to really maximize what we use so we don't have to continue to seek these more and more expensive projects. So the better stewards we are of the water resources we have, the better off we are. And ultimately it saves the customer money.
And Commissioner Scott, if you could just close us out, what are your goals for conservation and reuse? What are the Commission's goals moving forward with that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges we face is educating the customer. So when we look at the advanced water treatment processes that we now have, and some that are still within kind of a beta testing phase, it will allow us to provide water at a drinkable level, not just for irrigation purposes, but something, it's the cliche tool at the tap. Now, yeah, a lot of people kind of have the stigma with it. That's not great. But in the reality, as the director had said, we are at a point in time where water is not going to get cheaper over time. So when we look at protecting and hedging against some of the extreme costs that we could see for providing water, if we can do water reuse projects that allow us to supplement, if nothing else, kind of defer some of those cost increase over time, to me that's a bonus for all of us. And so the more that we can focus as a commission on innovative ways to provide the services that our customers need, that's ultimately going to lead to a better value, because we can provide equal or better levels of service at a current or slightly above current cost without having significant increases that may be detrimental, especially if you're on fixed income or other budget restrictions. It's not easy necessarily to go month to month not understanding how much a price could escalate for water or trash or property taxes, anything, right? Any of those costs. So for us as a commission, we always want to leverage federal dollars, state dollars to help us, because again, those are dollars that don't come out of the local constituents' contributions to the county. So the more that we can do of that, the more innovative we can be, the more value driven we can be. That's a win-win for everybody involved.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you for joining us. If you need more information about Polk County's efforts with water conservation, please head to our website at polk-county.net. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.